I've heard the bride tell other people she doesn't love me, and I'm in a bit of a daze. My fiancée and I got engaged last October. We've been in a relationship for 6 years. Everything has been good, and I've never met anyone who can compare to her. She is by far the love of my life. I have known her for most of my life as we grew up on the same street. Her parents still reside in the same house, and I continue to live in the house where I grew up. We have not officially moved in together. She keeps in close touch with her parents and has her own bedroom at their place. Sometimes she stays there overnight. This morning I decided to take a walk to the stores to buy a few things. About halfway through the 20-minute walk, I realized I forgot to take my bank cards. As I walked into the house to grab my wallet from the kitchen table, I heard her talking passionately on the phone in the living room. She said, "Yes, but James will always be the love of my life." James, her ex-boyfriend, is not someone I know much about, except that they were in a relationship for 3 years, which concluded a year before we began dating. He dumped her. After grabbing my wallet and heading back towards the shops, a strange feeling washed over me. I had to take a seat as my mind started racing in 1,000 different directions. When I finally got home, I told her I was sick and sent her to my parents' house since I didn't want to see her right now. Now that I'm laying in bed, I'm not sure what to do. Admittedly, I realized she didn't do anything malicious. She didn't cheat or intentionally hurt me, yet the impact of what I've heard lingers, challenging my ability to move past it. She basically says that the man she is about to marry cannot compare to her ex. She states that he will always be the love of her life and I feel unwanted. Her heart is already taken, and there seems to be nothing I can do to change that. Moreover, what if he enters her life again? Rejecting the love of my life when she returns is nearly impossible, and I fear being discarded hastily like yesterday's leftovers. The dilemma is frightening. Do I admit to overhearing her conversation and end the relationship with a vague reason like it's not you, it's me, or do the opposite? Bury my pride and act as if I hadn't heard it. Everything has been amazing, but I would never, ever want to be someone's second option, especially because her ex is the person she is clearly thinking about and would want to be with if she could. I'm thinking about just saying it's not going to work out between us. Update. She is now texting me that she wants to come over tonight to take care of me and pamper me since I am sick. I must admit, the past 3.5 days have been a blur of excessive drinking. I initially considered asking her to return on Thursday night for a conversation. However, I opted for Friday morning to ensure I had a clear mindset. Since she believed I was still unwell, I needed some time to carefully consider what I wanted to communicate. On Friday morning around 9 a.m., she arrived with rolls and tuna mayo crunch that her mom had prepared for me. She also brought grapes, sweets, juice, and other things. It seemed evident that she quickly sensed something was amiss, given my stern expression and the palpable tension in the air. Anyway, I informed her that I wasn't actually unwell. I recounted how, the day before, I had forgotten my wallet while heading to the shops. When I went back for him, I overheard her discussing James in the adjacent room. Her complexion instantly paled, and tears welled up in her eyes. I halted my explanation and simply gazed at her. Subsequently, she rushes into the bathroom, secures the door, and begins crying hysterically. Alarm bells start ringing in my mind. Her violent reaction suggests that she may not realize that I hadn't overheard the entire conversation, and so she then said something else that I clearly wouldn't have liked. I knock on the door. I told her that if there was any hope of saving our relationship, she needed to be completely honest with me at this point. After about 20 minutes, she came out wiping her face with a tissue. She told me that James had reappeared in her life 4 or 5 months ago, and she had been having physical relations with him once or twice a week since then. It probably happens when it's like she's on her way to her parents' house. It usually happens once a week, sometimes twice, and sometimes not at all. The best part is that over the years, I've randomly stopped by many times to chat with her parents, watch TV, or just pass the time without telling her. And each time, she invariably ended up at their place. It had become so commonplace that I never gave it a second thought. Clearly, those were the occasions when she went to meet James. All I can surmise is that the fragment of conversation I overheard was her conferring with a friend or someone, deliberating between choosing James or me. Upon hearing this, I became furious. I evicted her, hastily gathered her belongings, stuffed them into trash bags, and tossed them out the door onto the front garden. She remains standing there, by the way. In response, I seized my garden hose and thoroughly soaked the bags. I must admit I'm not proud of that action. Looking back, it was remarkably petty, and I realize I should never have done it. At that moment, she had already rushed to her house, and about a minute later her dad comes rampaging round screaming. Her dad and I ended up in the muddy front garden, yelling at each other around 10 a.m. Police sirens blared, and onlookers gathered, turning it into a chaotic scene that attracted half the street. Following the commotion, I decided to block her on all platforms and sought refuge at my friend's house. The three of us spent the entire weekend there, and on Monday, we collectively decided to take a date off from work. I'm on furlough, sipping a drink. Upon returning home this morning, I observed that she had been back at some point, tidying up by making the beds, doing the laundry, and even ironing. I'm puzzled as to why she would do this. As I'm typing this, she's attempting to enter the house once again. I haven't managed to replace the locks yet, so I've secured both the front and back doors with chains. From upstairs, I can hear the door opening and the clanging of the chains as she attempts to get in. There's also a note she slipped through the door, but I don't have the strength to read it at the moment. I'm too hurt, hungry, and dealing with a hangover to contemplate what she might have to say. Update. I'm currently in a difficult situation. Things have gotten worse since all that has transpired. I sent an email to her father, expressing my perspective on the situation and apologizing for making things public, which inadvertently embarrassed his daughter. However, as mentioned earlier, my actions were impulsive. I didn't offer an apology for engaging in a confrontation with him, as it was a reaction to his approach toward me. He basically said they didn't want to see me anymore. About a week ago, I went outside and found my car scratched from the passenger side rearview mirror all the way to the trunk. The previous weekend, I was walking down the road to meet a friend at a place we frequent for hangouts under the bridge. As soon as I turned the corner, a local gossip girl called me a disgrace. Puzzled, I inquired on what basis, and she stated that I was a disgrace for allegedly assaulting my ex-fiancée. Let's get this straight. You've never raised a hand to her at any point in my life. It seems that either she, her father, or someone else is spreading this false narrative, and my act of asking her to leave and hosing down the situation has seemingly lent it an air of authenticity. I haven't heard from her, and she hasn't attempted to reach out to me. It's like they're all conspiring against me. Now that I've been cast as the villain, I've initiated the process of selling my house. Living here has become untenable. Now the next story. My wife left after midnight, so I tracked her phone to find out what's up. I don't even know where to start. It's a long story. So I've been married for over 15 years. We have had our ups and downs. When I met my future wife, she was the sweetest and kindest woman I've ever met. I recall telling her she would be my wife just 2 minutes after our initial meeting. We share 2 children who mean the world to me. However, after the birth of our second child, I noticed a change in her demeanor. She became distant, seemed depressed, and exhibited a noticeable shift in behavior. I first thought it might be depression-related, but she said she was fine. She wanted couples counseling, but during the recession, I was juggling 4 jobs and a side business just to scrape by each month. Affording an additional $50 a week for counseling was out of the question, especially when she wouldn't open up to me about what was bothering her. Whenever I inquired, her response was always, "I don't know," and her emotional state fluctuated between good weeks and bad weeks. At times, she would be wonderful, while on other occasions, she could be mean and disrespectful. Once our financial situation improved, I pleaded with her to join me in counseling. Reluctantly, she agreed, but it seemed like she wasn't entirely enthusiastic about it. We consulted with a female counselor, and I got the impression that she anticipated the counselor would primarily point out my faults and tell me to do better. At first, she told her the same thing I did. So my wife said she needed more help around the house. It was 2015. I've held 3 jobs since then. Cleaned the home, helped with the laundry, took out the garbage, vacuumed, and emptied the dishwasher and sink every day. Everything was well for a while. Then she became resentful. This time, she became quite irrationally angry with my daughter. At last, I took her aside and assured her that I would never get a divorce. For however long it took, I would make an effort to concentrate on improving our marriage. That being said, I said that I couldn't tolerate her directing her aggression at our daughter, because she is a lot like me. If she desired a divorce, I was willing to go through with it. However, the following day, she expressed a willingness to give our marriage another chance. For a few years, things improved. She went to a doctor who prescribed an antidepressant, but she insisted on the lowest dosage possible. Fast forward to 2021. The pattern of unkindness and disrespect resurfaced, but this time it was accompanied by a complete disdain in her voice whenever she addressed me. Moreover, there was a visible look of disgust whenever I appeared. It was painful. Our intimate life was never an issue, and we both genuinely enjoyed each other's company. However, during these mood swings, she would withhold intimacy. Even so, I never cheated, despite receiving many offers while working as a bartender. At one point, my sister told me that my wife apparently thought I was cheating on her. I assured her that I had never strayed. However, the situation took an unexpected turn last month, after a wedding when we were at a hotel. I was anticipating some intimacy, but she bluntly said, "I don't need you." I believe it's time for us to pursue a divorce. We reached a mutual decision to proceed with it, but we agreed to postpone the formalities until after the holidays for the sake of our children. After expressing this, she fell asleep within 5 minutes, leaving me alone in bed with tears streaming down my face for 3 hours. I thought it was going to be the most pain I ever felt, but today she had to attend a party for our daughter's softball team. At midnight, she had to return home, prompting me to check our Life 360 app. It showed that she was in a restaurant. I figured she was meeting a friend for a drink. However, she remained there until 1 a.m., even though the establishment closed at 12. When I asked her where she'd been, she said she'd gone to a bar with people from the party, but didn't mention that restaurant, which struck me as odd. 2 days afterward, she mentioned that her supervisor instructed her to secure her phone with a password due to work-related emails. This raised my suspicions. Today, her mother contacted me, requesting assistance in moving a rug for her husband. I agreed and went to help. When I was done, I found myself standing outside, contemplating the situation. Curiosity led me to check the Live 360 app to verify if she had indeed left work. Confirming her departure, I contemplated an experiment. My wife has a tendency to engage in phone conversations while driving, so I decided to call her. She was brief, mentioning that she had to end the call because she was already talking to her mom. Oddly, her mom was right in front of me. Puzzled, I headed home. At home, I asked her how her mom was doing and if she had informed her that I had seen her today. She said she hadn't and asked where I had seen her. I revealed to her that I had called her while being at her house, and her expression immediately changed. Despite offering half-hearted excuses initially, she eventually confessed to having been involved with someone else for a few months. The revelation left me in a state of shock. 10 minutes later, she was acting like nothing happened. I had no one to discuss the situation with, given our mutual decision not to divulge information about the divorce. Consequently, no one broke the news to the children. Tonight, we were supposed to visit the Christmas village, and we were out all evening. My children sensed that something was amiss, attributing it to a possible bad mood. My son astutely remarked, "You sound hurt." The looming prospect of divorce was already a heavy burden, and I unintentionally shed 15 pounds in the last month. The added challenge now is navigating the process without risking the loss of my home. Over the past 15 years, I've diligently tackled various financial obligations, including over $11,000 in credit card debt, $16,000 in student loans, and a substantial $50,000 for a car. Now that I am facing at least $45,000 in house payments due to my impending divorce, it will undoubtedly be challenging. Nevertheless, I hope I can do it. I was just beginning to mentally prepare myself for my impending divorce when an unexpected betrayal came upon me. The pain she inflicted is beyond anything I could have imagined. The person I married seems like a stranger now, and I'm at a loss for what steps to take next. My daughters will undoubtedly be shocked when we tell them the news of our separation. I wonder if I should reveal the details to them, lest they hold a grudge against their mother. I feel completely lost, overwhelmed by confusion, stress, and a deep sense of heartache. At the same time, when I look at my wife, her apparent indifference only adds to my emotional distress. Thank you for listening to this story to the end, and if you like it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story.